Super excited to have Ron Braunfeld here. Some of you guys been here to Startup Grind before. This material is meant to live evergreen. So we keep this material going on and on as far as sharing it out with younger entrepreneurs, co-founders that are looking for more advice. So the pearls that we're hoping to grab here are going to not only live in social media, but live in our curriculum as we try to build it out. For some of you guys don't know, Startup Grind is over 200 cities now, all over the globe. A good friend of ours, Derek Anderson, is the founder, has a passion for entrepreneurship. If you guys are looking for additional information around just pearls of wisdom, subject matter experts, he's interviewed some of the best nationally and internationally. And I always want to encourage you guys to check out more of the videos that exist online. Part of what he talks about doing, his mission, is to educate entrepreneurs, democratize entrepreneurship. Make connections like this happen so you get to meet somebody and maybe be inspired by someone like Ron today. So definitely take a look at what Derek Anderson is doing in Startup Grind. We're excited to go deeper with him, not just here, but in other markets as well. Help me, and we do this all the time, my brother being the original founder and chapter director of Startup Grind Philadelphia. I'm going to keep with the tradition. Help me welcoming Ron Braunfeld to Startup Grind Philadelphia. So I'm excited. Most of you guys know I'm real good friends with Ron. Ron's been in our ecosystem for quite a bit. Got to know him, got to watch him, got to see how he interacts, not just as an entrepreneur, but with other members in our space. So this is going to be a really interesting, really easy dialogue, but I'm really going to try to get underneath the hood. You know, we're gonna have some tough questions. There's nothing off limits here. I already know his game plan of trying to flip it back to me and throw some hard questions my way. My team is loyal to me. They already gave me a heads up. But I'm going to throw it your way, Ron. And you know, there's a lot of things that Ron has done. Right now, he's the VP of a great Boston venture-backed company called Pingup. He was a part of several startups in Philadelphia, who sold for over $130 million. MapQuest, SnipSnap. We're going to dig deep underneath what he's done. But before we do that, we really want to know who he is, learn a little bit more about who you are as a person. It is Startup Grind, so we're not trying to get fluffy or keeping it light. We definitely want to understand how you deal with the ebbs and flows. So let's kick it off like I always do. And we have an alumni here, Chuck Sacco in the back, and he's one of my favorite interviews to date so far because of the authenticity that Chuck always brings to a conversation. So I'm looking forward to it today because that's what Ron's been from day one at Benjamin's desk, 1776. He's been that authentic guy that can give real talk. Sometimes the talk that you won't want to hear, but real talk. I'll dig deep underneath why Ron has that elephant hunting mentality when it comes to business development, and we'll go deep into some of the strategies to help people think through closing a deal, getting a deal in the pipeline, and doing it the right way. But before we go there, before we get to the sexy stuff as well, with a great acquisition of over $130 million, who is Ron Braunfeld? Give us a little background on who your family is, man, where you grew up, and some of the core values that make Ron who Ron is today.
All right. So I grew up in the suburbs, Villanova. My dad's a doctor. My mom was a great mom, one of three boys who we kicked the crap out of each other growing up. And thankfully, we all wrestled. And when we were all getting in fights, we had a wrestling mat in the basement. And when we were at each other's necks, we battled in the basement. And it was survival of the fittest in the house, and literally. I set the records at the high school. My middle brother, Roger, broke the records.
Roger broke your record?
And Randall, who you haven't met yet, by the way, broke all of our records.
No kidding.
So it's the way it's supposed to be. Now I live in Ballackinwood with my wife Kim and three kids. Two of them wrestled. My daughter was not going to wrestle. That was not going to happen. And I've always chose being an entrepreneur. In my mind, is always about being an optimist, being able to see things others don't, not always choose the easiest path, not be afraid to fail, and learn from both the success and failures, be humbled in every aspect of it.
We'll get to the kind of the wrestling mentality of how you tackle things and get things done. But what are some of the earlier moments, Ron, when you think through entrepreneurship or a moment that would trigger something, knowing that you wanted to always be on a pathway to control your own destiny and walk to your own beat? Can you point to something specifically?
Yeah, when I was, it was funny. When I was, after I graduated college, I was 22 with my degree in English and communications. I could write my way into any door. And once I got in the door, I could talk, right? And, but I had no specific skill set. And I was working in my uncle's box company in West Philadelphia, and I was just like putting boxes together. And he comes up to me and he says to me, "You're not moving fast enough." I'm like, "This sucks. I'm not doing this." He's like, "Then what are you gonna do?" "I don't know." And that's when, like, I walked out in West Philadelphia, in like 56 in Lancaster, and I looked around, and I said, "I'm going to build a graffiti removal business." This is 1993, mind you.
How old are you?
I was 23, or no, I was 22. And he's like, "You don't know anything about graffiti removal. You never even mowed a lawn growing up." I'm like, "I'll figure it out." Within 6 months, I had 3 or 4 trucks across Philadelphia removing graffiti in the city.
What was the name of the graffiti business?
You tell me.
Braunfeld's Graffiti.
No. Back then, you had to get, the only way I was going to get people to call me up was put your phone number, wow, I feel dated now, in the yellow pages. And I put,
Something with A.
Yeah, I called the whatever yellow page book and like, "You need a graffiti removal section in here," because graffiti's all over the place. So I was the only one. They put together a graffiti removal section in the yellow pages. I was the only one there, and my name of my company was Graffiti Removal Systems. All I had to do was answer the phone, go there, and get paid. You just had to show up.
I love it. I love it. Nothing like calling Yellow Pages and getting them to create a category for you. Tell me this, Ron. What when you think through the ebbs and flows of getting that up and going, learning some of the lessons. Obviously, some of you guys know Ron is a mentor in our network. We use a platform called Union, which was created in Washington, D.C. under 1776's umbrella. Who were some of the mentors early on that kind of threw you on a better pathway or put you in your place or punched holes in maybe your point of view that you can look back on? And what was that experience like?
There's a lot. I remember I reached a point with, after 4 years of my graffiti removal business, I was like 26, and I saw the internet starting to absolutely take off. I'm like, I want to do that. So I went to a lot of networking functions like this and had my resume, and people up here talking. I would introduce myself. "Hi, I'm Ron Braunfeld. Here's my resume. I want to get into tech space." And this one guy said to me, "Wait, this is very interesting. Why don't you come here?" So I did an interview with a company. God, this is a company called eCal, Rick Rosansky, and he said to me, he liked me. I could sell. I put on a good front, but it was a CFO who gave me a hard time. He said to me, "How are you going to go from graffiti removal into software?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "How are you going to go from graffiti removal to software? We're building an ASP platform for calendaring that's going to revolutionize the way people communicate." I'm like, "Dude, all you're asking me to do is sell. I'm selling right now. I'm managing like 20 people. I'm doing payroll. I'm doing workers' comp. I'm doing all these things. All you want me to do is sell? No problem." I did pretty well at that company, and the CFO tried to hire me 3 times afterwards. I never took the job from him.
What was the transition from that point when you think through, I don't want to jump to Where, SnipSnap, or PayPal, What was the transition from that point with Rick into the next iterative phase of mobile, internet, and become that ecosystem guy?
Well, at eCal, we built the first platform that made it so that if you received a calendar request from somebody from another calendaring platform, it would sync. It was very similar to, didn't matter what email platforms you were on, you would get the email. The same thing with calendars, and we were ahead of our time. And we raised a lot of money. We filed to go IPO, and we missed it. We missed the window. And along the way, in business development, I forged a lot of great relationships. One of the guys who's also a mentor, a buddy of mine by the name of Walt, I called him up and and it was right when the crash happened, and there's really bad. It was like 2000-ish. It was like 1999, 2000, and there's not a lot of transitional jobs out there. And I said, what are you going to do? And he was in San Francisco. I was in Philly. And we kept in touch. And I had a lot of friends from the ecosystem that we developed. And he says to me, Walt says to me, Ron, I think I might get the job of GM of MapQuest. Yeah. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, I think that's awesome. That's great. Go for it. He's just like, but if I take the job, I'm going to need somebody to run business development in the Northeast. I'm like, great. He's like, if I take the job, would you do that? I'm like, MapQuest is a great brand. I don't know what the hell they do besides printing out directions or what you want me to do, but sounds good. So he says to me, I got the job. Can you start on Monday? I'm just like, I already said yes. Mm-hmm. So I took the job, and that got me into the next chapter, which is MapQuest.
Well, stay there for a sec. You know, when I look around the room, there's some founders in here. I know they're wearing several different hats, biz dev being one of them. Give us some biz dev tips, biz dev 101 on some of the most basic things, and then talk a little bit about some of the strategic things that you've owned and done really well to date.
It's pretty broad.
Hook it up. Let's see what you got. Give us the first couple.
Business development can be pretty nebulous, right? People don't know are you in sales? Are you in product? Or it's but you're kind of a tweener, right?
And we're tweeting too, by the way, when
okay.
Ron throws these one-liners out. So tweet away with the hashtags up here and the handles.
You know, in my mind, business development is really sitting between sales and product. For an early stage company, it's really about being able to tell a story for finding product market fit, right? Finding the right thing that resonates with the right person, knowing who to contact at the organization, and being able to build rapport and trust. And then you're the quarterback, bringing everybody into the conversation, because it can't be just one person through the entire process.
I watch you a lot, and in the space, you always have your degrees of pipeline and your different stages that you're bringing a conversation through. How critical is it to have that type of guide at your side, but also to realize that you got to pull audibles here and there to actually get the deal across the line? How's that been supportive of you? What type of advice can you give to people around the guidelines of pushing a deal forward as you knock down some of the big conversations that you're having with Pingup?
It doesn't matter if it's with any company. I look at I've told you this, you know, it takes 3 meetings to really figure out whether or not you have a deal. The first meeting is here's what we do, here's why it's appropriate to you, and figure out the hook to engage them. Then there's a follow-up after the meeting. And, you know, and if they say, yes, that's interesting, that's great. These are the things that we're interested in. That's the hook. So you got them on the bait.
Isn't it easy? And we've been there. You get in front of a potential client, a customer, and you try to go for the heart right away and try to get that contract or proposal across the table. One of the things I learned from you was get that next meeting. What meeting number are you on? I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm trying to get the deal over the line today. He's like, what meeting number are you on? Get to that third meeting, tee it up. Where's that come from? Is that experience? Is that something that you've seen that's proven? And is it your
Calluses.
own? Tell me-
Calluses.
tell-
I mean,
tell me more.
it's like, I mean, everybody's gone into like the first meeting trying to close the deal, right? You never close the deal in the first meeting. You never do. It's always about the follow-up. It's always about the follow-up. It's about the cadence of the deal. It's about getting the first meeting. And then I've gotten to the point where I can walk into the meeting and I'm just like, this is gonna be a long journey. Or I'm in the meeting and it's just like the body language you read and you're like, they're leaning in right away, so you gotta go fast. But it's never closed in the first meeting. It's at least 3 meetings. It's at least 3 meetings, 3 in-person meetings before you're going to get something material done. It depends upon the level of the deal and what you're selling, but in my experiences, I've always gone after some very large companies, and it's always been at least 3 meetings until you know whether or not there's going to be something of substance.
Can you share some of the big brands just to kind of give it context?
Yahoo, Google, Facebook, PayPal.
And those fundamentals hold true,
Absolutely.
even at that level.
Yes, absolutely. You can tell, you can see what's happening in market dynamics and what they're doing. And it's your job in business development to understand the market dynamics and be able to cater the story to them that resonates. And if it doesn't resonate, but you still get the meeting, there's something there, and there's interest, but you need to understand, sometimes it takes longer than 3 meetings. You just don't know.
I'm not a big fan of when you hear people say, fake it till you make it. I've heard you say to a bunch of entrepreneurs and to myself, it's okay to show some vulnerability. Share a little bit what that means to you and how that plays a part in building relationships.
It's all about rapport. I mean, the best, one of my best friends in business is a guy who I cold called. That guy who I cold called, Walt, he hired me at MapQuest. We founded a company called Where together. He's now chairman of the board at my company, Pingup, who I brought him on because he's a wonderful guy. I mean, it's not just about building. It's not about building doing a deal. It's about really building lifelong relationships, and whether or not it's successful in that time, you want to really be able to build a relationship with that person in that position at that time. Whether or not you get the deal, if you don't get the deal, you want to be able to call that person back because they trust you and they like you. It's about building rapport. And if you don't like them, you don't have to call them again. It goes both ways.
I'm going to go backwards, but before we do, why don't you share a little bit what is Pingup? Give a little dynamic of where you guys are industry-wise, revenue stage, is there anything interesting happening right now? And then table that into what is Ron doing day-to-day for Pingup, knowing that it's a Boston-based venture-backed company?
So I've been remote for a number of years in my career. MapQuest is based in Denver and Dulles, Virginia. Where was based in Boston. And PayPal was obviously based in San Jose, and Pingup is now based in Boston. So with Pingup, I run business development for them. And what we're doing is we're building a directory of what we call to action buttons. When you do a search on Google, Yahoo, Facebook, whatever, you get a lot of information about the business. You get the business name, you get the address, you get the phone number, you get an email address, you get a website, you get all this stuff. We power the booking button on that page. And phase 1 of search was about being able to find the business. Phase 2 about search was about writing reviews about the business. In our minds, phase 3 is about driving actions for the business, material actions. CPC, cost per click advertising, or click to call advertising. Who cares? The clicks are not measurable and meaningful anymore. The calls, nobody calls any business anymore. People want to programmatically connect with a business the way that they buy e-commerce, whether it's on eBay, Amazon, whatever. You want to be able to buy from the business without having to click to another page. We power that for a lot of publishers. We have over 300,000 merchants on our platform. We're venture backed, based in Boston. I'm not going to talk about revenues.
That's okay. What about how long have you guys been going at it now, and how long have you been there?
I've been there about a little over 3.5 years.
Yep.
The company's been around for about a little over 4 years. A number of pivots along the way. But it's really about the company that you keep. What I said earlier about like selling to somebody, you want to build friendships. When you're working for a company, like these are people that you spend more time with than you do with your family sometimes.
Sure.
Even though I'm remote, a lot of the time, these are your go-to people, and you want to have camaraderie. Otherwise, it's not fun.
I'm going to ask you to stay there for a second, but for some of you guys that know Ron and see him in the space occasionally, and he heads down, I'm going to find out what a typical Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday looks like for you, and what a day looks like for Ron Braunfeld. But what's funny is if you're ever in the space and there's someone video conferencing or on the phone out loud, Ron gets to the front desk, starts giving us a look, starts giving us like a head nod, has his beard going, gives that scary look.
Do you want me to tell them what I say to you?
No. We don't talk about lip smacking. I always just tell them, hey, we'll talk to them soon. It's a community.
He never does.
Tell us what a day looks like for Ron Braunfeld, even when you're distracted by some people video conferencing or collaborating in the office space.
Starting when?
What's that?
Starting when?
Start when you guys were hitting an inflection point of a company as far as business goes. So whatever month that was where you guys were starting to see serious traction, give me what a typical day would look like pre-contracts and pre some of those numbers you just talked about. Like rewind 6 months from now, and what did that day look like for you?
It's pretty much the same.
You're doing a lot of traveling. I remember a couple of the months, March, April, May. I felt like you were all over the country.
I mean, there was a time where I've been on the road. I've traveled like close to 100,000 miles a year, all domestic. Where I've gone, it's like just you got to get in person with these people. You got the only way you can really build meaningful rapport is by seeing people face to face, eye to eye, being able to understand, oh, your kids play soccer, or so that you can pick up the phone and you can say, hey, how you doing? And it's less about the deal, more about interweaving the deal with the personal stuff, because at the end of the day, I mean, it was my uncle who told me people like to buy and work with people that they like, and people that they trust, and people that they like to go out to dinner with, and people it's very, very simple. I mean, if my wife says to me, do you want to go out to dinner with so-and-so on Saturday night? And if I say yes, great. If I say no, or if she says no, if I say that, it's not going to be a fun night. You want to go out, you want to do business with people that you like and you trust and you can build rapport with. And if you have to, there were times when my kids were 5, 3, and 1, where I was gone on Tuesday morning and I wouldn't come back until Thursday night or Friday morning on the red eye. It's because that's what we did. And FaceTime is so important. All this technology is great, and it works fantastically, 100%. But there's nothing like breaking bread with somebody, seeing somebody in person, and building meaningful relationships with them.
We always talked about your connection and relationship to the CEOs and to some of the founders you've worked with over the years. What have you seen quality-wise that draws you in to lean in, to go all in, to sacrifice some of the things that are happening around you, to go to battle for that type of CEO or leader that you've worked with in the past? Share some qualities of what's meaningful for you, leadership-wise, to date.
Not to work for people that you don't like, right? Number one, I've worked with a number of folks, and, it's really about, I'm going back to the same things, people you want to have dinner with, people that you want your family to meet. If my wife or if my wife couldn't hang out with somebody with the CEO of the company, I'm not working there.
What is some advice you have for some of the entrepreneurs and founders today as far as attacking a new business and wearing several hats to go after it? Is there something you go to? And I know I'm putting you in front of a lot of younger, early-stage entrepreneurs. What are some of the things that you can instill in them beyond the fundamentals of business development? And to some people in the room today and some people that are going to be tuning into the video, what are some of the advice you
Narrow that down a bit.
Advice for entrepreneurs. A young, early-stage entrepreneur who's about to build a company.
Don't be afraid to knock on doors. I mean, when I was 20, literally, when I was 22 years old and I had my graffiti removal, 23, and I had my graffiti removal business, if you had markings on your wall, I would knock on your damn door, literally once a week until you threw me out there. If I couldn't convince you to make the community better, you had to say, no, I like that on my wall because it's degrading my property and it's not making it look good. And along the way, I said, I found a business model the majority of the time that basically said, if I removed that for free and I came back every time somebody that sprayed paint on your wall, would you like that? And they would say yes. Don't be afraid to knock on doors. Don't be afraid of the no. In fact, go for the no.
I like it. We're going to go backwards a little bit from Pingup now. Where? Give everybody a breakdown what where was, what was your onboarding onto where, and we'll dive deep into a little bit of the ebbs and flows before the success. What is where?
So where was I'll start at the end. We started as, we sold the company to PayPal in 2011 for over $130 million, and we were the first location-based ad network in North America. When we started it in 2005, we left, me and my buddy Walt left MapQuest, and we said, man, these mobile phones are going out. They're like crazy. So we were at MapQuest, and we launched MapQuest Mobile. And MapQuest Mobile was the first phone or mobile application that you could get point-to-point directions from. And it wasn't GPS enabled. So you had that Razor phone, and you had said, I am at 123 Main Street, and I'm going to wherever, and it would give you turn-by-turn directions. So you're driving like that, right? You're driving like that. And we're like, and at the time, the FCC mandated that there had to be a GPS chip in every phone for an E911 reason. So if you were in an emergency and you did 911, people could find you, right? So we're like, this is going to be huge. So we left our fat jobs at MapQuest, and we started this company.
This is the same Walt that's at Pingup.
Yeah, lifelong friends. Met him on a cold call. He's like, Walt's like, let's do this. I'm like, okay, we'll do this. I trust you once, we'll do this again. And so we would fly out to all the like major studios in California, like Fox, Disney, and we're like, we can build you an application. We can build you a GPS-enabled application for mobile phones. And everybody's like, this is great, awesome, fantastic. What's the market opportunity? It's going to be huge. It's going to be really big. This is 2005, 2006. And they would say, how many GPS-enabled devices are there in market? And we're like, there's going to be a lot. No, how many are in market? Not that much. It was like 10 million phones, and everybody was on Nextel, and Nextel was a business network, and nobody was just like, everyone's like, nah. So we failed a lot, very, very fast. But Walt's job as a CEO was to make sure we were capitalized to be able to take advantage of the market opportunity that was coming. My job was to help find the business development side, the product market fit, who was going to be interested in it. So along the way, we bought the domain where.com for a lot of money, built a mobile app called Where, which was like kind of like what Yelp is now on mobile. It was an application that helped you find your next favorite place. So you could find your weather, your search, you could do a lot of things on Where. And the tipping point was right before Apple launched their App Store. I don't think I've ever told you this story. Sure. Right before Apple launched their App Store, we had our application preloaded on AT&T, Sprint, and a number of other carriers, and we're doing great business. But we always knew that a subscription business was not where we're going to make the multiples that we wanted to make. We wanted to be a consumer business. So I get a call from Apple right before, I forget the year, I think it's 2008. And they said, we have an opportunity we'd like to talk to you about, but you have to sign an NDA because we're coming out with an app store. And we were like...
Like, time out. I mean, there's got to be some excitement level of getting a phone call from Apple at that stage.
Apple, like at the time, it was the Razor phone and the BlackBerry 8820 or something, some derivative like that, and the iPod. Like, there was nothing else. And so I get a call from Apple. They're like, we really like what you're doing. Will you sign this NDA so we can talk to you about this opportunity? I'm like, so I called Walt up and I'm like, are we going to do this? He's like, sign the NDA, we'll figure it out. So we got the information, and they're like, I said to him, Apple's coming out with an app store, and they want us to be one of the first GPS-enabled apps on the app store, and they want to help us, develop this app, this and that. And Walt was just like, they don't know what they're doing. But at the time, they weren't like what Apple is today, right? They didn't have, it was like the beginning of the App Store. And fast forward, we launch with Apple after lots of development, and the servers are crashing. Like, we're getting like 20,000, 25,000 downloads a minute. And Walt's like freaking out. He has AT&T in his office.
Are you guys in the same office as well?
No, I'm in Philly.
Yeah.
I'm in Philly. And Walt's like freaking out. We need more servers. I'm like, dude, chill. This is what we always wanted. You wanted to have a consumer, and it worked. But fast forward a year, we have like 4 to 5 million users, and it's just like, we're not making any money. So what are we going to do? The only way
How much money was raised at that point as well, Ron?
About 13 to 14 million. So we raised up to $20 million. And the only way we were making money in our app with GPS enabled was through search. So, in search, we had a search bar at the top, and we were making money whenever somebody entered in pizza or restaurant or whatever, and you got taken to one of the Yellow Pages sites, we got paid every time somebody did that. So I said to Walt with my CTO and our product manager, I'm like, we got to figure out how we manufacture search. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, the only way we're making money in our app, really, besides the subscriptions, which we don't care about, they were funding. The subscriptions were funding our business fundamentally, but it wasn't going to give us the multiple that we ultimately wanted. We need to manufacture search. And he's like, how are you going to do that? Okay, go figure it out. So I was up in Boston all the time. And we basically said we knew all the categories that we had from all the various providers of content, the Yellow Page companies. We knew the categories. We knew the taxonomy and all that kind of stuff. And all we did, looking back on it, it's really simple. All we did was day part it. And what I mean by day part, we knew that people would look for dinner specials at certain points in time, bar specials at certain points in time, shopping specials or deals at certain points in time, and we targeted display advertising within our app to drive the clicks to the pages that we got paid for. It doubled our revenue within our own application. So then it became, how do we get more inventory? We weren't going to get more inventory by driving consumers to download our app, to use our app, because we weren't funded to do that. So what we did was we created an ad network. I read an article in one of the trade rags where the senior VP of Pandora said that we're going to take over local radio. I'm like, if you're going to take over local radio, you got to take advertising from us. So I called him up.
Whose idea was it to come up with the ad network?
It was my.
And how big was the team at that point?
The team was about, at Where, we had about 50 people at the company at that point. But it was three of us. It was a CTO, the head of product, and me, who we commercialized it. And we went from our one application, Where, to 300 customers in our ad network in less than a year. Wow. And with that comes like 1 billion ad requests a month. And that was the tipping point.
Yeah, and timing-wise, so walk us through the deal a little bit, right? Sometimes when you're in that deal and term sheets are being across the table, there's excitement. Walk us through some of that gray area where the deal's not over the line. But
what kind of deal?
When you guys got acquired.
So
give me when conversations started to when actually the funds were in the account. What was the timing like?
3 months.
Oh, wow, fast. Walk us through that.
We, well, it was 3 months between the pitch and the close. But it was all about the preparation in advance of that, right? So, we set out a plan in September that we wanted to be acquired or have the option to be bought. We didn't want to be sold, right? There's a big difference. You get more money if you're acquired than if you're sold. So we set out in September of, I think it was 2010. We lined up all, because we had a good business. We were profitable. We were making money, and we were having a lot of fun. I was working with people who were peers of mine, going through life circumstances together. Men, women, everybody were like, it was a good group of people, and I was the only one in Philly. But we knew it was market timing. It was time. I was there for, Walt and I started in 2005. It was 2010, and we had a lot of calluses. A lot of calluses.
So you said preparation, obviously, getting that deal ready, teeing up conversations.
Yeah. We knew all the people.
Who were some of the other players that could have been the acquirer?
Oh, we had a list of 12 companies, and over the course of between September, when it was called Project Overlord. that was our internal project name, Project Overlord. And
when you're getting through these, because you don't want your team to be distracted, how transparent are you in those moments, even in preparation?
We weren't.
Okay.
Not at all. It was a core group of people that we were. It wasn't about selling the company. It was about commercializing an opportunity. It was about the commercialization of this partnership between Ware and whatever company on the other side. It was unique to that, and if they bit, it was on to the second meeting, the third meeting, so forth.
That's exciting. Share a little bit of moment, obviously when picking advice and getting some truths around fundamentals with skills and what you do really well. Share a little bit of the moment when, the deal was across the line. What did that look like? Is there something you can point back to that says, wow, that was you enjoyed that moment, not just with the group of guys, but you can point back to a moment that you remember knowing you got a big deal across the line?
Yeah, it was spring break in 2011, and I said to my wife, I said, Kim, she's like, what are we doing for spring break? We're going to Boston. She's like, she's like, why are we going to Boston? I'm like, we're selling the company. I'm like, what are we going to do with the kids? They're coming with us. So when we sold the company, my kids, when they made the announcement with the PayPal people there, my kids were 11, 8, and 6. And they're in this awesome place on the north end of Boston. And all they're looking at is, wow, there's ping pong tables, and there's all these there's free soda. And they're running around, and that was it.
That's cool. You point back to family.
That's the first time I told that story too.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Let's stay there on family real quick, Ron. You've been through a lot lately with your wife. What does that date, June 3rd, mean to you? And can you share a little bit about how that's changed perspective and whether someone's going through the adversity of you and your family went through, or an adversity they may be facing now? Sometimes when you look at people in the face, you don't really see what's really happening behind the scenes. Share a little bit about what you've gone through and how that's changed you. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper there if you're okay with that.
You went there.
I did go there.
That's okay. So a little bit a year ago earlier this month, my wife was diagnosed with a form of bone cancer, which ultimately she's fine. But it's a pretty crazy year where she had her femur and knee removed and 9 months of chemo. It was crazy. And it's all about...
Came out of left field as well, yeah?
Left field. No idea that was coming. But I always go back to the company that you keep, right? Whether it's the people that your colleagues or the people that you're doing business with. And everybody had my back because I had their back. And it was about being open and not trying to game the system, not trying to get something that wasn't due. Sometimes there's just bad luck. People understand that if you can build meaningful relationships with your colleagues and the people that you do business with, they'll understand the circumstances. What I got out of it was, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, I know we had several conversations. I've always was impressed with watching you not only go through it, because when you know someone closely, you can see it on them, it wears on them, yet you were still heads down getting work done. What are some of the things that you leaned on to continue to get work done for Pingup during that time? We all face different things. Maybe nothing as monumental as that and stressful and debilitating as that, but what are some things you leaned on to kind of continue to get results for Pingup that you can share maybe with folks?
When you're in the mode, right? When you got to get stuff done, you just got to get stuff done. I mean, one thing that I was fortunate to have was have great people around me, whether they were family and friends who were able to help, who were able to fill in the blanks. One thing that I've done, I'm not sure if how many of you could say this, but I'll put it this way. How many of you in the audience have missed one day of working out this year?
Not just one.
Not just one. I've missed one day this year. If I didn't have my 5 o'clock in the morning getting to the gym, I'd be a train wreck. That was the one thing that I needed to do. Some people have their whatever. I needed to get to the gym, get my balance, get my focus. 5 o'clock in the morning. If I didn't get that, I mean, my days were really long during this year.
I got to know your son Jackson a little bit, worked out of our space, would help us out, run around. And you always, when people go through something like that, you can see the maturity of what they're going through. Share a little bit about perspective change now. Has that changed how you view the grind of entrepreneurship? Does that put things in a little bit more perspective around how you tackle your day-to-day today?
Not really. I mean, I've been, you've known me for a long time, like 3 years now. What you see is what you get. I'm a family guy. I like to work hard, like to have fun, like to play hard too. And I've always been it's about the company that you keep. It's about the kids. It's about the family. It's about, it's not about how much you make, because, you hear this saying, it's just nobody's going to remember how hard you worked. I look back at my dad, and different generation. My dad was never home when I was a kid. He was always working because the mom was supposed to be taking care of us, and
you had that mentality beforehand too, right? Why you always were mobile instead of being transplanted to Boston? Was that part of the play as far as investing in family?
Yeah, totally. I wasn't going to move to Boston. I mean, for my career, for what I was doing at the time in 2005, I 100% should have moved to Boston, 100%. But now you look at what the tech ecosystem, what's happening here in Philly, it's really starting to come around, and it's really, really exciting. You look at the second tower at Comcast over there, and you look at the excitement. You look at, what you're doing here at Benjamin's desk, or 1776. I'm sorry.
Sorry, we'll edit that out.
Edit that out. Things are happening, so there's going to be an opportunity. If my son Jackson or my daughter Ella or my other son Reed want to stay in Philadelphia and work in the tech economy, there'll be more opportunities for them. There wasn't that for me.
Well, I appreciate you sharing about Kim, and super impressed at how you handled that, man. Not just saying because we're up here, but you know how super impressed I am. Let's fast forward a little bit and talk about Philadelphia's tech ecosystem since you brought it up. We've asked you to evaluate over 100 applications for our Challenge Cup. Tamara was the champ behind what that really looked like.
Tamara.
We were very transparent, said we wanted to pick 11 companies, and you agreed to that 11 companies. Don't say anything. Share a little bit about what you learned through that process. You got to see a bunch of pitches. We narrowed it down. What are things that pop out to you? Someone that could change a team dynamic in a minute by joining. What are things that popped out at you when we were looking at all those pitches and getting them down to a final 11?
11?
It was a final 10. Then when there was some politics got involved a little bit. That's right.
So what's the question?
I don't know. I'm a little flustered now. What did you learn when you looked at some of those? We went from 20-some strong applications, 100 applications to 20, and we got it down to 10.
If you picked, when they pitch, if you pick 20 people, I don't think you would get more than 3 people who would say, this guy's going to win. Like, I had, like, I mean, I was surprised. I was super impressed by, if you would ask me, the company that won, great idea, great concept, pre-revenue, you know, are they pre-revenue actually? I don't know.
Tam? Yeah, they're making money.
Not a lot, right? I wouldn't have picked them, me personally. But that's a great company. And then there were, you know, then you had a drone company that was like, drones are on fuego right now, right? And then you had League Side that is like going to go from $2 million this year to $7 million next year. That's a humdinger, right? You know, it was like, wow, there's some stuff that's happening here, which is pretty cool.
Share, without giving too much details away, as a mentor on our union platform, what are things that really allow you to lean in when someone's giving you information versus shaking your head where that wasn't maybe worth your time or their time?
I've had a couple companies who are like, can you introduce me to a VC?
On meeting one, number one.
Meeting one. And I'm just like, this is going to be really quick. Where, you know, and they don't even get, the key question that I usually ask is like, I want to know the why. I want to know why you want to do this. Because this is hard. Whatever this is that you're doing, it's going to be really, really hard. And, you know, what you're doing now is going to be very different than what you end up doing. And are you prepared for that? And if I can engage in a conversation with somebody who can articulate the why versus the, can you introduce me to a VC?
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. We talk about 3 topics a lot, and I'm going to let you pick on one to talk through. I'd love to know your point of view. I haven't asked you this question before. When you think through, don't worry, I'm not going there. When you think through culture, talent, and diversity, share your point of view around one of those topics real quick. Culture, talent, diversity.
They're all important.
Yeah. But I'm on a TikTok here. I got you till 8 o'clock, buddy.
What time is it?
Well, if 10 minutes or so, and then we'll do some Q&A.
6 minutes left.
You know, the best companies I worked with and worked for had all 3, right? You know, at PayPal was absolutely bar none. You listen to some of I'm a stock owner in PayPal, but I listen to what the CEO talks about diversity at that company. It's absolutely incredible. He is an absolutely incredible human being. I don't know him. He's after I joined. It's about having different perspectives at the table is really, really important. You don't want to be at a boys' club. I don't want to work at a boys' club. You know, I love seeing a woman in a leadership role. It doesn't matter if it's just important to have diversity in a company, and it shouldn't be a hang-up at all.
Flow of the rest of the interview, guys. Tee up some questions. We'll probably take 2 or 3 questions, things that we haven't touched on. It could be topic-driven. It could be something that Ron's already explained a little bit deeper. We're going to hit rapid fire, Ron. I got like 5 quick questions for you to answer. First
Okay.
thought.
That one?
That was good. That was good. And then I'm going
Can
to
I ask you some questions?
No. Afterwards, mics go off. I'm under an NDA still, believe it or not.
He's lying.
I have conflicting stuff all over me to keep it safe.
He's lying.
Rapid fire. Hate losing or love winning? Which one? Pick one.
I hate losing.
Hate losing. Wake up early or stay up late?
Early.
Work hard versus work smart?
Smart.
One perk that makes you smile if being courted by a new company?
There's no one perk.
I think there has to be one perk always to make you smile, but no. We're going to take some questions. I'm going to think through some of your closing thoughts. It doesn't have to be uplifting. It could be something real conversation. It could be tied to Philadelphia's ecosystem. It Could be tied to anything that pushes you forward or something that you want to leave folks with, not just in this room, but evergreen. Questions, guys? Matt?
So, with the graffiti business, you said you knocked door to door, you sold. Did you ever learn coding in your other jobs, or were you primarily stuck to sales and business development?
I can talk APIs till you're blue in the face, but I have no idea. Like, I remember my first job at eCow, they're like, we had a tutorial, like literally the business development folks had a tutorial. And one of the questions was, what does API stand for?
FAQs.
Seriously, I
Was
never-
Rick a technologist?
No. Maybe a little bit.
Got it. Mike?
For sales, a lot of times nowadays, people drive towards analytics to try and get the right person to make that smart decision you mentioned. How much of it still is a numbers game, just reaching out to as many people as possible, or how much of it is actually driving data and using that to?
I guess it really depends upon what you're selling, right? If you're selling, if you're working for a company like GoDaddy, right, and then it's, or a company like that, then it's going to be like a numbers game where how many can get in the funnel and how you can get them through the funnel accordingly. But if you're, in everything I've done, it's always been a little more about how do you get massive distribution, right? So it's always been like, if I can crack I'll put it this way. At Pingup, the CEO, when I joined the company, he's just like, we need to get Google. I'm like, you're never going to get Google. He's like, why not? I'm like, because Google's not going to be the guinea pig for your offering. He's like, well, what's the plan? You got to start with like, you know, a smaller company to distribute your stuff, and then get a little bit of a bigger company to distribute your stuff, and then get a little bit, you got to work, so you can point to something like, I've done it here. Somebody has to be the guinea pig. When I call it like you're hunting big game, so to speak. Does that answer your question?
I like it. 2 more questions, guys. Dave?
What's the biggest mistake that you ever made in terms of business development? What did you learn?
I know you don't write your own handwritten letters to people, too, so you can disclose that information now.
What?
Do you write your own little notes? Is that your handwriting, did I
My
say?
handwriting.
Okay. Just wanted to call you out
It's
to
not
make
a
sure.
mistake.
All right, I'm just making sure. It would have been a mistake if you outsourced that.
No. My biggest mistake, I don't think it was on the business development side. It was, I think it's more about joining a company at some point where I thought that based on my experiences, I could like make them something that help them drive somewhere where they culturally were not able to get to. And based on that experience, you ate a little bit of humble pie, but that's okay because it's not about, it's about the journey. It's not about like what happened. It's like I learned from that, and eating humble pie across your career is not a bad thing as long as you can learn from it.
Question in the back.
So a lot of startup founders, and talk a little bit about it around getting through the tough times. It all comes back to your why. So if something shit hits the fan big time, what type of stuff do you do to get through that so that you can keep going with your why?
That's a great question.
I'm not sure. I couldn't hear that necessarily.
What's your one go-to to get through those tough moments?
Believing in the team. I mean, if you don't think the team can like get your back, I mean, I look at what happened. Like literally, when I was at Where, we raised about $20 million, and we're like, can this be edited? We were like, what are we gonna do? Because we don't got anything. And like literally, we raised $20 million. We were gonna sell it for $20 million, and we're like, this sucks. nobody wants this, right? And you're editing this, right?
I actually am not. That's a higher fee for Elijah, and I'm going to keep it
All right.
simple. Budget, stay on budget.
Okay. 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 So we're like, this really sucks. So we had to make some hard decisions. So the exec team, like these guys who I worked with for like 4 years, like all the time, what are we going to do? We had to make some really hard decisions. We had to like cut some staff. We had to like back things off, and we had to pick. What are we going to do? Are we going to do an ad network? Yeah, let's try that out. Big, good idea that we did, and we couldn't have done it if we didn't have the camaraderie and trust of the people that. So my why is like, why am I here with the people that I am with, and are they going to have my back? That's my why. So if I can't look in the mirror and say, I can hang out with these people, I can have a beer with these people. I mean, you spend more time with these people that you work with than your family most of the time. If you don't like them, that's on you. That's my why.
I love it. I think you nailed that theme, Ron. I'm going to tee up final words from you. A couple of formalities, guys. We are tweeting later on. Please participate in the amplifying of what's happening. I'll be throwing one other hashtag out there, Kim Crushes Cancer, which I'm a big fan of how you guys handle that, not just you, but your whole family. But amplify for it. It's part of the storytelling. Ron does do office hours for 1776, 3 a month. They go pretty quickly. He's not that intimidating, as you guys can see. If you're authentic and real, you guys can make a real connection there. I can't tell you how helpful Ron has been to the Benjamin's Desk team during this transition into 1776. Some of the input, the real talk, and believe it or not, even the encouragement, sometimes coming from a rough guy like Ron, really made the difference. And so be aware who's around you guys as you continue to network and be a part of the ecosystem of Philadelphia. Sometimes there's uplifting words, it's the real conversations, it's a thoughtful introduction that can change the whole trajectory of a company. And so be thoughtful around that. Stuff will matter, especially as our ecosystem grows and continues to mature. Final words, Ron.
I'll take more questions. I really don't have any final words.
What was the happiest moment in your professional career other than meeting your wife?
Do you smile? Like happy moments?
Happy moments?
Everything's so even keel with you. What's a happy moment?
Happy moment.
What about looking in the bank account when
No, it's not the bank account.
$130 million day?
Nope, not that. It was, I think it was seeing my kids smile when they were at PayPal, and they were like, this is where you work, because they had no idea where I worked. I guess that's it. That was pretty cool. And actually seeing Jackson, my oldest son, come down here when he was working at Benjamin's Desk, and seeing him get integrated into the community, and seeing him get his, at 16, get his poise, being able to take the train down by himself, manage his own bank account, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool to see him have his own point of view around
Yeah.
something, right?
Go ahead.
How do you evaluate people you hire? Like, you spoke a lot about, people you work with and staying with them and having their backs and them having yours. I'm in the business of recruiting people and evaluating talent, and I find it, as much as I meet and I feel like I can read people, is there any questions or tricks or, how do you evaluate the people that you hire and know that they're going to work out for you?
I've never had really big teams, like less than 10 people on my specific team, and it's really about. I ask what makes them tick. It's like what makes them like. What are their passions? What are their pain points? What are their what gets them going? And it's like my best hire was. On paper was the worst hire. So when we were at an inflection point at the company where, I built, on the business development side, I built the distribution network for, all the publishers, and now we had to build a ad sales force, and, I was responsible for that, and I had to pick the person, or I had to bring in the interviewers. So I had to bring in an old head who's done it, time and time again. He was like, this is somebody who's like totally coin operated, who was just like, yeah, I've done this before, like 5 times. He had no passion. And then I had a guy who was a regional manager, trying to make the step, but he's been a regional manager for or RVP for a long time. He was a guy. Then I had this guy who's always been an independent contributor, always been very, very successful, youngest person in the group, but he wanted to make an impact. If we didn't hire that guy, we would not have been in a position to be where we were. And he was on the way up in his career, and he wanted to make an impact. He wanted to put his thumbprint. He didn't need the big W-2 right out of the gate. And it not only changed the trajectory of our company, but it changed the trajectory of his career.
What's he doing now?
He's now like EVP of sales and business development for a big advertising company, and he would never have gotten that job if he didn't have his thumbprint, and he doesn't like it. I won't tell you the company though.
I'll look on your LinkedIn.
It's so hard to determine that.
It's so hard.
How do you know?
You don't. It's gut. It's really hard. It's a numbers game, right? You know that better than me. I mean, how many people do you have to refer to a company for them to say, okay, I will take this interview? It's hard.
One of the things we found really successful is the reason why Charlotte gave a great introduction about Ron, but believe it or not, Ron grabbed us to say, you need to sit down with Charlotte. Let me tell you the DNA she comes from, but also her leadership style. So internally matters, right? Can you hire internally? We're blessed to have a network where we can look down the hallway and see what's happening, see founders succeed and fail. I'm a big fan of hiring within. Good question. Matt, why don't you close it out with this last question?
I don't know if you're going to want to answer this, but was it just you and another founder originally for Where? Thank you.
No, it wasn't.
Thank you. So my question really is, when you sell for $130 million, can you give people an idea of when you sell for $130 million?
Yeah, how much were you diluted?
What's left that you own? What's your actual equity left by then? Because you've raised $20 million at that point.
Yeah, Matt, I like it.
That's a big question.
That's a big question. Under the hood.
A lot less now after doing a couple other startups.
But there was dilution. I imagine $20 million raised, dilution.
Ballpark, I mean, you probably don't want to have people doing calculators in their head right now, but.
No,
It's probably fair to say less than 20% though, yeah?
I think it's fair to say less than 10%.
Okay.
I mean, I joined, the company was, it was almost a reboot. Like, my DNA is like, I'm not going to be one, like, I started my graffiti removal business, which is very different than tech, obviously, because there was a lot less capital, but really messy.
Nice.
I'm a go-to-market guy. At this point in my career, and I've learned what I'm good at is let other people set the foundation. I'm the go-to-market guy. I'm the one who can, help form the strategy, build the go-to-market, and with Where, we folks incubated the idea, and I got brought on to help with the CEO. There were it was started by 3 people, 3 people, and there were 4 people. I was the 6th person hired. I was the first business guy. So, it's.
Let me piggyback on that though, Matt, real quick, and we'll end with this. Could you talk about Rick's mentality behind having a little bit of equity left of a bigger company versus a whole lot of equity of maybe a a smaller type lifestyle company? Did you ever talk about it?
I never wanted to be a part of a lifestyle company. It was not ever something that's why I got out of with my personal business. It got to the point where I had to either diversify or franchise, and I didn't want to go down that route. So in the tech business, for me personally, it was less about a lifestyle business. It's more about how we build something big together, and everybody's in it together, and we're going to have fun together, and we're going to cry together, and we're going to laugh together.
Ron Braunfeld, everybody.